Many historical accounts describe the 16th century as an era of European discovery, but the Indian subcontinent was already home to one of the most prosperous and advanced civilizations on Earth. India functioned as a global trade hub, largely because its artisans produced textiles that the rest of the world couldn't match. Their weavers developed specialized techniques for creating fine cotton and silk fabrics, like muslin and chintz, which were so highly valued they were often used as a form of currency. Then there was the spice trade, the pursuit of what traders called black gold. Peppercorns, cinnamon, and turmeric were in such high demand across Europe that a single shipment could be sold at a price hundreds of times higher than its purchase cost in India. This chart visualizes the scale of that wealth. During this period, India accounted for roughly 1/4 of the world's entire gross domestic product, making it one of the 2 largest economies on the planet. For centuries, Europeans could only reach these goods through overland routes, but these trails were controlled by Ottoman and Arab intermediaries who charged high fees and restricted access, shrinking European profit margins to almost nothing. India wasn't a land waiting to be discovered. It was a massive, high-output economic engine. For Europe, finding a way to bypass the middlemen and reach the source directly became a desperate global race. In 1498, Vasco da Gama sailed 16,000 miles around the tip of Africa to finally reach the Indian coast. He solved the problem of direct access, but his fleet arrived heavily armed, proving that European interest had shifted from equal partnership to direct control. This arrival marked the beginning of colonialism. This is a system where one country takes total political and economic control of another, established settlements to ensure its resources and labor are extracted strictly for the benefit of the colonizer. With a direct sea route secured, European powers began building fortified trading posts. Their objective was to stop trading on Indian terms and start establishing their own systems of extraction. Discovering the sea route did more than just change map coordinates. It launched the age of colonialism, an era where European empires competed to siphon off the wealth of the East. The Portuguese arrived first, but they didn't have the numbers to conquer territory inland. Instead, they used their naval superiority to enforce the cartaz, a permit system that gave them a violent monopoly over all sea trade in the region. Their control extended into the cultural lives of Indians. In 1560, they established the Goa Inquisition, using religious persecution and the destruction of temples to force conversions and solidify their dominance. The Dutch East India Company, or VOC, operated with a strictly commercial playbook. They focused on pragmatic, high-volume intra-Asiatic commerce, hauling goods between regional ports to maximize profits before beginning the long journey back to Europe. But even corporate fleets faced limits. At the 1741 Battle of Colonial, the forces of the Travancore Kingdom decisively defeated the Dutch on both land and sea, sinking their influence in the region. This defeat proved that European dominance was never inevitable. Local rulers were highly capable of military resistance, and the success of the various colonial playbooks was always at risk. By the time the French East India Company arrived, the most profitable coastal routes were crowded. To compete, they had to look beyond the shorelines. Governor Joseph Francois Dupleix realized the most effective way to gain power was through political entanglement. He began playing local Indian rulers against one another, offering military support in exchange for territory. The French began training Indian soldiers, known as sepoys, in European military techniques. By embedding these troops in local alliances, they sparked the Carnatic Wars and turned their trading posts into command centers. Intense competition forced the French to escalate their strategy. They integrated their trade settlements into the local political landscape, proving that a colony could exert power through armed interference as much as commercial trade. It is a common mistake to view the conquest of India as a sudden, unified military invasion. In reality, the takeover was a slow, fragmented process. This map shows how colonial rule actually began, as a series of scattered dots along the coast. It took nearly 200 years for these small, competing footprints to evolve into a broader system of control. The global demand for India's resources is what drove this expansion. The race for textiles and spices destabilized the entire region, as European empires fought for a piece of the prize. This constant infighting between the Portuguese, Dutch, and French tested different strategies for dominance. These decades of maneuvering gradually weakened India's internal political cohesion from the outside in. These competing playbooks inadvertently set the stage for the next century. By testing every method of extraction and control, they provided the blueprint for the ultimate victor to apply all these lessons at once: the British.